They took my car, drained my account, and still had the nerve to tell me I was selfish for not fixing it, like I owed them something, like I was just there to clean up their mess again. But what they didn't know was I had already seen the numbers, the transfers, the money they thought no one would ever question. And once that crossed into federal territory, it stopped being family drama and turned into a case, a real one. And at 6:12 a.m. the morning it all came down, I was standing across the street watching federal agents walk straight through the front door they used to slam in my face. And by the time it was over, there was no more pretending, no more excuses, just charges, consequences, and a sentence that finally stuck. Because this wasn't about helping them anymore. This was revenge. And if you think you know how this ends, you don't, because the part they never saw coming is who I really was in all of this. Chapter 1. The car that wasn't mine. I still remember that morning, 6:12 a.m., my phone buzzing against the bathroom counter while I stood there half awake, toothbrush in hand, trying to decide if I had actually slept or just stared at the ceiling all night. My dad never called that early. For a second, I thought something was wrong, hospital wrong, the kind of wrong that changes everything before you even have time to think. I rinsed my mouth, wiped my hands, and stared at his name before picking up. "Where is your car, Ilara?" No hello, no hesitation, just that. I leaned my hand against the sink and looked at myself in the mirror, hair clipped up, eyes still heavy, already feeling that familiar tight pressure in my chest. "My car is at Sarah's garage," I said. "We had hail last night, so I left it there." There was a pause, not confusion, not relief, the kind of pause where you realize the question was not really a question. Then he said it. "So the Honda CR-V that crashed around 4 this morning was not yours?" My stomach dropped, but not because I was surprised, because I was not. "No," I said, "it was not." The shift in his voice came fast. Whatever concern had been there disappeared, replaced by something colder, sharper. "Julian is at the station." Of course he was. "You need to help him." There it was, right on time. Help him how? "Tell the police you let him take your car. Tell them you knew he was driving." He said it like it was nothing, like it was normal, like I had not spent most of my adult life cleaning up after his son. I did not answer right away, not because I needed time to think, because I already knew what this was. My mind pulled up the same memories it always did. 2019, Julian taking Dad's truck to a party and clipping the neighbor's fence on the way home. He laughed about it the next morning. I spent my Saturday calling insurance because he said dealing with it stressed him out. 2021, the grocery store parking lot. He backed into someone's truck after drinking, then drove off like it didn't matter. Dad paid cash, called it a misunderstanding. I went back the next day and apologized to a man who kept asking why I was the one standing there instead of the person who hit him. I didn't have an answer then. I do now. 2023, Julian losing another job because he couldn't show up on time. Mom told me not to push him, said he just needed support, said family doesn't keep score. Family. That word always sounded warm when other people said it. In our house, it meant something else. Julian made the mess. I cleaned it up. And now it was 2025. Julian had taken my dad's Lincoln Navigator out before sunrise, gotten behind the wheel drunk, and wrapped it around something solid enough to stop him. For a second, I pictured it. Dark road, flashing red and blue lights cutting through the cold air, the front of the SUV crushed in, steam rising, a state trooper off to the side writing something while Julian tried to talk his way out of it. That image stayed with me longer than I expected. "Ilara," my dad said, again, sharper now. I took a slow breath. "No." The word came out steady. There was a short, disbelieving laugh on the other end. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, I am not involved. Don't do this," he snapped. "Family helps family." I almost said yes, out of habit, out of instinct. That reflex was still there, buried deep. Then something else pushed up, something I'd ignored for too long. 2023, sitting at the kitchen table while my dad talked about Julian like he was some kind of investment that just needed more time. He looked at me and said, "You're fine, Ilara. You always land on your feet." It sounded like a compliment. It wasn't. It meant I didn't need help. It meant I was expected to handle things. It meant I was the one they didn't have to worry about. So they didn't. "Not this time," I said. His voice dropped harder, now. "You're being selfish." The word hit, but not the way it used to. Not sharp. Not enough. "You're tearing this family apart," he said. I checked the clock. 6:18. "No," I said quietly. "I'm just done saving him." There was a pause, long enough for him to expect me to take it back, to soften it, to fix it. I did not. I ended the call. For a moment, I just stood there, the apartment too quiet, the air feeling heavier than it should. Then I moved, got dressed, grabbed my keys, left. The cold outside hit sharp, clean, waking me up in a way coffee never could. I drove to Sarah's place without turning anything on. 8 minutes. That was all it took. Her building was quiet, garage door rolling open with a low hum. And there it was, my CRV, exactly where I had left it, untouched, safe. I sat there for a second before stepping out. 3 years. 3 years of saving every extra dollar, saying no to trips, taking extra shifts at the credit union, bringing lunch from home while everyone else ordered out. No one helped me buy this car. No one offered. No one needed to. I walked up to it slowly and placed my hand against the door. Cold metal under my palm. Solid. Real. Mine. That word landed different now. Not just ownership. Control. I leaned forward, resting my forehead lightly against the roof for a second, because this moment felt simple, clear. I opened the door and sat down, hands settling on the steering wheel. For the first time in my life, when the call came, I didn't step in. I didn't fix it. I didn't make it easier. And this time, I knew something my father didn't. No amount of money, no excuse, no quiet conversation was going to clean this up, because for the first time, I wasn't there to do it. I was leaving him in it. Chapter 2. The Favor They Expected. By 8:45, my phone lit up again. Mom. I stared at it for a second before answering. "Ilara, you need to help your brother." No hello, no pause, just straight into it. I leaned back in my chair, eyes on the ceiling for a beat. "I am at work." "You already spoke to your father." "I did." "Then you know how serious this is." I glanced across the credit union floor. People moving like any other morning, like nothing had shifted. "He made a choice," I said. "He panicked," she snapped. "He did not mean for this to happen." I let out a quiet breath. Driving drunk is not panic, it is a decision. Do not use that tone with me. What tone? That tone, like you think you're better than him. I shook my head. I do not think I am better. I just stopped lying for him. Silence. Heavy this time. "You are his sister, Ilara." There it was again. I rubbed my forehead. And what does that actually mean? It means you stand by him. It means you fix this before it gets worse. Something in my chest tightened, but it wasn't guilt anymore. It was something sharper. I have been fixing things my whole life. I am done. Her voice dropped, colder. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" That hit different. I sat up straight. "What exactly have you done for me?" Another pause. Longer. "You always had what you needed," she said. "Yeah," I said quietly, "because I made sure of it." Her tone shifted, hard now. "If he goes to jail, that's on you." "No," I said, "it's on him." I hung up before she could keep going. For a second, I just sat there, hands still, the office noise humming around me. It felt like pressure building behind glass. At 10 past 10, I saw him, my father, standing just inside the entrance, looking out of place in a way I had never seen before. He had never come here, not once. My manager walked over, hesitant. "Ilara, someone is asking for you." I nodded and stood. He did not greet me. "Outside," he said. We walked into the parking lot, the sun already too bright, bouncing off windshields. He did not waste time. He pulled papers from a folder and held them out. "Sign this." I did not take them. "What is it?" "You confirm you gave Julian permission to use your car." "No." Flat. Immediate. His jaw tightened. "Do not make this harder than it needs to be." I looked at him. "I'm not making anything hard. I'm just not lying." He stepped closer. "You think letting your brother take the fall like this is right?" I felt it then. Not hesitation, not doubt, something settling into place. "You think asking me to lie to the police is right?" His eyes hardened. "You owe him." There it was. Not family, not love. Debt. I let out a short breath. "I do not owe him my life. You owe this family," he snapped. "Everything you have came from us." That almost made me laugh. "No," I said, "everything I have came from me cleaning up your messes." His expression shifted, just for a second, then hardened again. "You don't understand. He could go to jail." "Then he should not have been driving drunk." I held his gaze, and this is not the first time. That landed. I saw it. The flicker, the truth he did not want to say out loud. "You have changed," he said. I shook my head. "No, I just stopped pretending everything is fine." He pulled the papers back, shoving them into the folder. "This will affect all of us." "It already does." I turned and walked back inside before he could say anything else. My hands were steady, but my chest felt tight, like something was still pushing against the edges. I sat down and tried to focus. Numbers, accounts, simple things. Then my inbox refreshed. Insurance. I opened it without thinking. Claim denied due to unauthorized driver and confirmed DUI involvement. I read it once, then again. $82,000. Not covered, not reduced, gone. A slow, heavy drop settled in my stomach. I pictured the navigator, the damage, the repairs, the conversations that were about to happen. Every other time, something had stepped in. Money, excuses, silence. This time, not. This time, it stuck. This time, it stayed exactly where it belonged. On him. On them. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen a second longer than I needed to. This was what it looked like when no one cleaned it up. My phone buzzed again. Julian. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hey," he said, voice low, tight. "I need you." I said nothing. "They're talking about holding me here. I can't stay here, Ilara." I looked out the window, sunlight cutting across the parking lot. "What do you want me to do?" "Just tell them you let me use your car. That's it. They said it changes everything." Of course it did. I closed my eyes for a second. "No." Silence. Then softer. "Do you hate me?" I opened my eyes. "No, I don't hate you." "Then help me." My grip tightened slightly on the phone. "I'm not saving you this time." His breathing shifted. "You're my sister." "I know." "Then why are you doing this?" I stared at my reflection in the dark screen. "Because if I fix this, nothing changes. Nothing." He did not answer. For a second, I felt that old pull, the urge to step in to smooth it over. I let it pass. "I'm sorry," he said, but it sounded empty, like he was saying it because he needed something. I nodded once. "I know." I ended the call, set the phone down, and just sat there. No rush of guilt, no panic, just quiet. Then a thought I couldn't shake. For the first time, the damage was real, and this time it wasn't going to stop with him. Chapter 3. What They Didn't Tell. 3 days later, the email showed up like it had been sitting there waiting for me to notice it. No subject, no message, just a single file. 2021 incident video.mp4. I did not open it, not right away. My cursor hovered over it, unmoving. It felt ridiculous to hesitate over a file, but something in me already knew what it was going to show, and once I saw it, there would be no going back to pretending. The office was almost empty. The low hum of the lights filled the space, making everything feel slower, like time had stretched just enough to give me a chance to change my mind. I clicked it. The screen flickered, then settled into grainy security footage. A parking lot. Late evening. A car backed out too fast, too careless. It slammed into the car behind it, hard enough to jerk it forward. The impact made my shoulders tense even without sound. The car stopped. A beat of stillness. Then the driver door opened. The man stepped out, looking around like he was checking if anyone had seen. Even with the angle, I knew. Ryan. He walked around the back, glanced at the damage, then looked over his shoulder again, waiting. No one came. No one stopped him. He got back in, drove off. Just like that. I stared at the screen for another second, then closed the laptop halfway. Not all the way, just enough to dim it. My pulse was steady. No panic, no shock, just something colder, clearer, like a line I had refused to see was finally right in front of me. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Hello? You watched it. The voice was calm, controlled, like this was a conversation he had already played out in his head. Who is this? Daniel Mercer. The name settled into place. The man from that night, the one I had stood in front of apologizing for something I did not do while Ryan stayed invisible. Why send this now? Because this time your father cannot fix it. No anger, no satisfaction, just certainty. Did you send it to anyone else? Yes. A pause. My attorney. Another. And someone inside the district attorney office. My grip tightened slightly on the phone. So this is not just a warning. No, he said. This is a record. A record of what? Of what happens when nothing is ever stopped. I leaned back slowly. You kept this for years? I needed proof, he said, and I needed it to show a pattern, not a single mistake. Pattern. The word settled hard. 2019 was not a one-time thing. 2021 was not confusion. And this was not bad luck. It was repetition that no one ever interrupted. You have been waiting, I said. A small pause. I have been patient. That hit harder than anything else. Not anger, not revenge, patience, like he knew this would happen eventually. What happens now? That depends on how far your family is willing to keep lying and how much of this the DA decides to pursue once they connect everything. My stomach tightened. Connect everything. So they're looking at more than this? They're looking at a pattern of leaving scenes, of driving under the influence, of obstruction if anyone tried to cover it, he said. That tends to get attention. I exhaled slowly. For the first time, it didn't feel contained. This was not just one bad night. This was exposure, public, legal, unavoidable. We'll see what holds, he said. Then he hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, the weight of it settling deeper than I expected. Ryan was not unlucky. He was protected, every time, until now. That night, my phone rang again. Mom. I answered. Her voice was tight, strained. Ryan could be facing additional charges. Good, I said. Silence, sharp enough to feel. Ilara. What? Don't say it like that. Like what? Like you want him to suffer. I leaned against the counter. I want the truth to catch up with him. You're making this worse. No, I said. I just stopped making it easier. Her voice rose. You think this is justice? You think tearing this family apart fixes anything? I closed my eyes. You keep calling it tearing apart. I call it stopping the same thing from happening again. Stopping what? The same cycle you keep pretending is not there. Her breathing shifted, uneven. You're going too far." I let out a short breath. Too far would have been lying again. Too far would have been showing up at that station and fixing it like nothing happened. That's what you wanted, right? Silence. Then softer. "You don't understand how serious this is." "I do." "Then why are you acting like this?" "Because no one else will." That hung between us, heavy, real. "You're his sister," she said again, quieter now. I shook my head even though she couldn't see me, and that doesn't mean I lie for him. It means you stand by him. I straightened. I stood by him when he hit that car in 21. I stood by him when he walked away from it. I stood by him when you told me to apologize for him. My voice stayed calm, but it cut sharper now. And all that did was teach him he would never have to face anything. She had nothing to say to that. "You're cold," she said finally. "Maybe, or maybe I'm just done being useful." I ended the call. The apartment went quiet, not heavy, not tense, clear. I walked to the window, looking out at the street below. Cars moving, people crossing, everything continuing like it always did, except I couldn't unsee it now. Not the video, not the pattern, not my role in all of it. For years, I told myself I was helping, holding things together, keeping the family steady, but that's not what I was doing. I was absorbing the damage, taking it in, making sure it never landed where it should have, on him, on them. I pressed my hand against the glass, cool, solid, real, and for the first time I saw it clearly. I was never the one they relied on. I was the one they used, the one who made everything disappear. Until now. I picked up my phone and opened the video again. This time, I watched every second. No hesitation, no turning away. Then I closed it, set the phone down, and let the silence settle. Because this time, it was not just going to land. This time, everyone was going to see it. Chapter 4. Let It Collapse. The hearing came together faster than anyone expected. At least, that was what people kept saying. Cases like this were supposed to stretch. Quiet conversations, delays, back and forth between attorneys before anything real ever touched a courtroom. That was how my family had always handled things. But this time, it did not stretch. It tightened. I found out the night before, not from them, but from Sarah. "They made one last push," she said. "Final offer." I leaned against the counter, already bracing for it. "And?" she said. "They turned it down." I let out a slow breath. What was on the table? Reduced time, no felony if he completed everything clean. That should have been enough, more than enough. And he said no? "It wasn't just him," she said. "Your dad pushed for it. He thought they could still control the outcome if it went to court." Of course he did. There was always another move, another conversation, another person who could be convinced. "Not this time," she added quietly. What changed? They have everything now. The footage, the prior incident, the timeline. The DA is not negotiating anymore. That landed. Not a discussion, not leverage, a decision. They are filing full charges in the morning. I nodded to myself. Okay. You sound calm. I am. Because once everything was out in the open, there was nothing left for them to shape. The next morning, I did not go to the courthouse. I didn't need to see it to understand how it would unfold. But I still heard about it. Messages started coming in before the hearing even settled. They walked in like it would get handled, like always. Another message followed. That changed fast. I sat on the couch, phone in my hand, reading each update as it came. They played the footage early. I felt my chest tighten just a little. Both incidents, not just the crash. So they didn't isolate it. They connected it. They laid out the timeline, the message continued. It's not a one-time mistake anymore. That's the moment everything shifted. Not just legally, socially. The story they had been telling for years stopped working. They asked him if he remembered the first incident, another message said. I could picture it. The room quiet, people watching, waiting. He tried to explain it away, said it was different. Of course he did. He didn't get far. I read that line twice. They cut him off, said the pattern mattered more than the explanation. There was no space left after that, no room to soften it, no angle to redirect it. They denied the request to reduce charges, the next message said. Completely. Then another. Your dad tried to talk to someone after. It didn't work. I could see it so clearly it almost felt like I was there. The controlled tone slipping, the urgency showing through. For years that had been enough. Now it did nothing. They're going to move forward with everything, the final message said. I set my phone down and sat there for a while. This is the part people imagine, the moment where everything balances out, where it feels like something has been corrected. But it didn't feel like that. It felt quiet, final, in a way that didn't need to be loud. My phone rang. Dad. I watched it for a second, then answered. Alara, we need to talk, he said, too quickly. I stayed silent. There are still options, he continued. This is not finished. It is, I said. A pause. You do not understand how this works. I almost smiled. I do. That's why it's finished. His voice tightened. They're pushing too far. We can challenge this. You already tried. Silence. Then lower. You could help. There it was. Not said directly, but clear enough. You want me to step in. You have connections, people who would take your call. For a moment, I just stood there, phone against my ear. Then I shook my head. No. Alara, no. I'm not fixing this. This is your family, and that's exactly why I'm not doing it. The words hung there, heavier than I expected. They're going to make an example of him, he said finally. I looked out the window, unfocused. There already are. Another pause, and then I heard it. Not in his voice, but in everything around it. The shift. For the first time, there was no version of this where he could step in and reshape it. No call left to make, no quiet fix waiting in the background. Because it was no longer just inside our world. It was out, clear, seen by people who didn't care about our name or what it used to do. And somewhere in that room, I knew exactly how it looked. The same faces, the same expectations, but no one was looking at him the same way anymore. That part would stay. I ended the call and set my phone down. For a long time, I didn't move. Not because I was unsure, but because there was nothing left to decide. The outcome was already in motion, and this time, there was no one left to clean it up. Chapter 5. What I finally kept. 3 months later, everything had settled. Not in a dramatic way, not with some big moment that made it feel complete. It was quieter than that, the kind of quiet that stays. I heard about my father through an internal email someone forwarded to me. He had stepped down from his position. Personal reasons. That was all it said. No details, no explanation, just a clean exit written in a way that did not invite questions. But I knew exactly what it meant. Insurance had refused to cover the full cost of the damage. Too many issues tied together, too much history that could not be ignored anymore. What should have been handled quietly turned into something expensive, visible, and impossible to hide. Then came everything else. Clients pulling back without saying why, calls that used to come easily starting to slow, people choosing distance without making it obvious. The country club was the last piece. No announcement, no confrontation. They just did not renew his membership. No one said his name the way they used to. That was how it worked when things shifted. Not loud, not direct, just different enough that you could not ignore it. For the first time, nothing was being managed behind the scenes. Nothing was being softened before it could reach the surface. It was all just there, clear. Sarah asked me about it one afternoon after work. We were sitting in her car outside the credit union, watching people come and go like any other day. "Do you regret it?" she asked. I kept my eyes on the building for a moment before answering. "No." She turned slightly toward me. "Not even a little?" I shook my head. "I just wish I had done it sooner." She nodded like she understood, because it wasn't really about regret. It was about time, how long I had stayed in something that was never mine to carry, how many years I had spent stepping in before things could break, smoothing everything out before anyone else had to deal with it. I used to think that meant I was helping, that it meant I was loyal, that it was what you were supposed to do for people you loved. But it never felt like a choice. It felt like something I had been placed into, a role that made everything around me work as long as I kept doing it. And the moment I stopped, everything changed. Not all at once, but enough. I still worked at the same credit union, still drove the same car, still followed the same routines that had always been part of my life. From the outside, nothing really looked different, but inside, everything had shifted. No one called me late at night asking me to explain something that didn't belong to me. No one expected me to adjust the truth to make things easier. No one waited for me to step in and fix what they had already broken. That space was gone, and nothing replaced it. At first, I noticed it in small ways, finishing a day at work and going home without checking my phone every few minutes, making plans without wondering if I would have to cancel them, sitting in my apartment and realizing the silence around me was not temporary, it was real, and it stayed. I didn't lose my family. That was what people assumed, that I had cut them off completely, that I had walked away from everything. But that wasn't what happened. I stopped doing the one thing they depended on me for. And once that was gone, everything else adjusted around it. The calls became less frequent, the conversations shorter. There was no tension, no dramatic arguments, just distance and honesty where there had never really been any before. They couldn't pull me back into something I was no longer willing to be part of, and eventually they stopped trying. That was the difference. Not conflict, just absence. One evening, I sat in my apartment with nothing urgent to do. No problem waiting, no situation building somewhere that I would have to step into. That used to make me uncomfortable, the idea that no one needed me. Now it felt different. It felt earned. I leaned back and let the quiet settle in, and somewhere in that moment, it became clear. For the first time in my life, I hadn't stepped in. I hadn't adjusted anything. I hadn't tried to make it easier for someone else. I stopped fixing them, and I finally kept myself. That was the part no one really talks about. They talk about outcomes, about consequences, about things being made right, but they don't talk about what stays after everything else settles. This was what stayed, the part that belonged to me. I reached for my phone out of habit and checked it. Nothing waiting, no missed calls, no messages asking for something I was supposed to handle. I set it back down and left it there. If you've ever been the one who fixes everything, the one who keeps things from falling apart, the one who carries what no one else wants to deal with, then you know how easy it is to believe that's just who you are, that it's your responsibility, that if you stop, everything breaks. But sometimes the only thing that changes when you stop is that the truth finally stands on its own. So I'll ask you something. If you were in my place, would you keep fixing it, or would you stop and see what's left when you do? Because when I did, I didn't lose everything. I just stopped losing myself. If this story meant something to you, stay with me, share your thoughts below, and follow along for more stories that might feel a little closer to your own.